Okay, welcome everybody to the last of this term. It's nice to see you all. This is Leanne's story. She's actually one of our graduates from 2007, and she has a company called Moksha Studio.
Yeah.
So enjoy.
Hi everyone. Yeah. So can everyone hear me, or is it better if I use this microphone? Yeah. Okay. Right. I'll just kind of turn down the lights so it's not quite so bright. Yeah. Right. So I graduated here in 2007, doing an interior design course. Gary was my tutor as well. We're in the old building. And now I'm managing director of Moksha Studio, which is a 3D visualisation company based in South London. What we're going to cover today is just a brief talk really on what's happened to me since I left uni and the process that I've gone through getting a job, also just working in the design industry as a whole, and then through to starting up my own company and what that means day to day for me. And then at the end we'll have a question answer session for anything that you're not sure about or anything that you kind of want to know really. So finishing university, I was lucky enough actually that we had a visiting lecturer who worked at Foster & Partners, the architectural practice, and she had kind of spotted me and had the opportunity to hire an assistant and asked me to go for an interview in Battersea in their London studio, which I went to and got the job really. And so before I'd actually graduated, I'd already got a full-time job in London, which was kind of great considering that it came from the university itself really. The interview itself was informal, so it was just a brief chat where I met Neris, who was the architectural illustrator who hired me, and her boss, Gamma, who's the head of visualisation for the entire company. So, and he was also a partner at the company, so a really kind of high up person. Yeah, and it went really smoothly. It was great to go and to see their studio, to see the way they work in the real world. So there's lots of big kind of important people in suits walking around, lots of international projects being displayed on the wall. And if nothing else, it was a really good chance to kind of see how a real life practice worked. So I'd say even going to interviews, even if you didn't get the job, it would be great just to go, just to see how that works and the kind of people that work there. But everyone was really friendly. My first days working there, structured induction, as probably with most jobs, most big companies. Met my manager, who then introduced me to a team of people. And my first kind of weeks of the job was spent shadowing Neris, so learning how to be an architectural illustrator, basically, learning the kind of methods, which was mostly based on taking CAD drawings that the architects had done for big, huge site plans, master plans for cities, elevations, sections, perspective sections, and then rendering them in full colour using mainly just Photoshop with a Wacom tablet. And it was just a process of learning, really, learning how she did it and learning how I was supposed to do it. And then in the following years there, I was there for a total of 2.5 years. I progressed into working on my own projects, taking on more responsibility, managing my own time. And it was a really great place to work, actually. And then we hired a new assistant who then shadowed me, so it was like a process of kind of gradually moving up the chain. But the time did come where I felt it's such a big company that if you go to a big company initially when you're just starting off as a graduate, you can get quite pigeonholed. So I knew that I would never get a breadth of design experience while I was there. I knew I would always be the illustrator and I would have my set role, because it's almost like a big machine. Everybody has their little part to play, and as long as it's working, there's no need to fix it. So despite having a really great time working there, loving the people that I worked with and everything, I decided to move on, where I went to a place called United Designers, who are a luxury high-end interior design company. So I started there as an interior designer, again feeling quite out of my depth because I'd graduated doing interior design, then become an architecture illustrator, and then found myself in a designer's role again. So obviously every new job you start is going to be daunting, but you'll learn as you go. So I started there, soon realised that I didn't very much enjoy the technical side of designing, so sitting doing the CAD drawings and things like that wasn't really what was my forte, and soon got the opportunity to move into the 3D visualisation department, where I just loved it. It was great. I worked alongside my now friend Nick, who I still work with closely, who taught me everything that I know now, and met lots of contacts moving forwards, gained lots of experience with clients and things like that, till I was in a position where I felt it was a good time to move and start my own company. So starting a company, it's good to aim small initially, and then it's not quite as scary. But there were a few of us that all worked in the United Designers, and were all in the position where they were ready to move on and do their own things. So for various different reasons, really, because working in the design industry can be quite hard. The hours are long, and if you start your own business, you've got the opportunity to take the power into your own hands a bit and to make your own connections, decide how you want to work, get more of a work-life balance, and also have the freedom to go away and to travel and things like that, which is also something I love doing. So I've been able to work for periods, go away for periods, come back, still maintain my business. And like I say, there were a group of us that did this, and we all started a bit of a collective called the House With, and it was a really great time actually. It felt really kind of creative, and we found a studio, and we all were starting up our companies, so we helped each other, and all the same processes of going to company's house, starting a limited company, hiring an accountant, dealing with all the kind of business side of it, and then starting up a website, thinking about your company branding, all that kind of thing makes it a lot easier if you can also meet other people that are doing the same thing, so you can kind of bounce ideas and things like that. So between us, we had varied specialisms. We had interior designers, graphic designers, architects, illustrators, and we even had a marketing and PR girl called Neha, which was really great, and she did the kind of social media website kind of side of things. So that was really great. But moving on to my company specifically, it's called Moksha Studio, and it's a very small company. I'm the main hired full-time employee, technically, and then the business model is basically to hire freelancers as and when needed. So sometimes I'll hire people to help me with 3D modelling. So if I'm really busy on a project, I'll get someone else to do the 3D modelling aspects for me, and then I'll take on the project, deal with the client, and finish the rest of it basically. So in terms of actual 3D visuals, this is an example here. That was a Dunhill store, actually, somewhere in the world. Maybe Dubai or somewhere. But usually a lot of what we do includes interior hotels, so hotel rooms, bathrooms, corridors sometimes, restaurants, bars, sometimes shopping centres, so it will be lots of different views because they're huge. And we've even done stadiums, spas, resorts, and all sorts of other things that just kind of pop up along the way. So day to day, for Moksha Studio, finding new business is a really important one, because if you're going to set up on your own, there's really no point if you don't have any work to do. So finding new business is always important, trying to contact people. Networking is the biggest part, I'd say. I think the best thing, if you wanted to follow and do the same kind of thing that I did, for example, the best way would be to just meet lots of people and they always remember you. So in the design industry, people don't stay in their jobs that long. They tend to kind of hop around and get little mini promotions as they go. And in doing that, every time you go to a new job, you'll meet a whole new set of people, and then they'll remember those people, and then they start overlapping, and you'll start realising that the interior design industry in London is really quite small, and a lot of people actually know each other. So I just see the same names and the same faces popping up at different companies, and they'll just ring up and go, "Hey, I need some visuals doing, are you free?" And it's like, oh. And mainly, the people that I know seem to sprout from United Designers. I think that's a real hub of where people seem to have sprung from and moved on to other places, and then started their own companies as well. So once you found the new business, initially at the start of a project, you'll have to meet them, so going to other people's practices, their studios, mostly on a one-to-one basis to go through their drawings, their design concept, and then usually the rest is done via email, so they'll email a package with CAD drawings, site photos, things like that, and then the whole process will be done backwards and forwards via email. General admin, running a company is fairly simple, but also something you have to stay on top of, so always making sure that you send an invoice as soon as the job is done, and making sure all the details are on the invoice, and that you've got a period of time in which you expect to be paid, and then chasing them up afterwards to make sure, because people don't like to pay. General banking, working out business expenses, having to have a separate business account, and also hiring an accountant who does a lot of that for you and can explain the process. But the main thing about running a company is actually doing the projects. So here, I'm just going to show you through one sample project that I did recently. It's a country mansion hotel, and this is some of the initial information that I got sent. So the plan's slightly squashed. If you can see here, this is where they've drawn on the camera view. So looking towards there, this is the bay window, which you can see here. And then this goes off into a different room. So really it's essentially just this space. And you can see from the site photos that it's quite detailed. So a lot of the time was spent modelling that in 3D to get all the architectural detailing right. This is another set of information they would send us. So they pick their own furniture, lighting. Some of the furniture usually gets designed by the actual designer, in which case they'll give you a CAD drawing, and then it's just a process of working that up. And then as soon as I get something like this, I initially do a Google image search. So I don't know, you guys probably know how to do all this already, but if you go to the Google page, drag an image into the image search field, and then just see what it pops up with. So here, for example, I did it with the chandelier, which is here. Saw that it's from the Urban Electric Company, and then found the dimensions. So then once I've got the dimensions, I can then model it in 3D. So that one's done, check. And for another one, for example, this sofa, that's from Amy Somerville in London. And there's a website called 3D Sky. This might be a bit of a cheat for anyone that's doing 3D, but you can buy already done CAD models, and a lot of companies these days actually give them to you as well. So a lot of various things like designer furniture companies and things like that will already have their design technical area, so that you can download their CAD models and use them in your own images. So this one is 3D Sky, and if you type in, sometimes you're lucky enough to find what you're looking for. And then it kind of turns up like this, and this is the download button where you can just download and then drag that and drop that into your scene, which saves loads of time. So this is the little selection of the FF&E, now modelled in 3D, and this is an example of the screen that I'm working with. So it's from the top, the front, the left, and the actual view of the camera. So the camera is a physical thing, well, as physical as 3D can be, which you move around, and it works very much like a real camera. So it's you have shutter settings, you have f numbers, You have all sorts of different focuses, vignetting and stuff, much like you would have on a real camera. So, and the yellow things in there are the lights in the 3D. And then this is the first draft that goes to the client. So, just a very, very basic, no lighting particularly done, no materials. This is just the view, the initial view they're going to see at the end. And then you get this back, which is a little bit soul-destroying sometimes, but mostly good. And in this case, it's mostly just adding detail. So you can, like, I don't know if you can really read, but they've decided that their own design basically needs fixing. Now they can see how it will look. So removing lamps, adding things, changing things, moving lights, adding artwork, adding a TV, just general things that make it more real. And then along with that, they sent a new set of samples. So they're very specific about the flowers and the accessories they want to use to create the feel that they want. Sometimes they don't give that kind of information, and we just build what we think based on our design backgrounds of knowing what looks good. And usually the material samples come along like that. They're quite detailed for each piece of furniture. It has to have the right look and feel. And this is the first draft they get. So from the initial first white stage, quite a lot has been added. So all of the materials have now gone in. This has also been photoshopped as well. So initially from the 3D modelling, it gets rendered and then goes into a post-production phase of just brightening things, giving it different effects, just generally making it look a little bit more vibrant. And then it's client comment time again. So sometimes this can go through quite a lot of different rounds, depending on who the client is. Some of them are really good and some of them are just not so good. But in this case, again, you can see that it's just adding different levels of detail. So here, there's an extra detail on the top of the console, checking heights of seats, which were correct, changing this one, adapting the design of the chandelier, which also a reference picture there, and then that's their CAD drawing of this unit, which they wanted to change. And after that, voila, this is finished. So I think actually there were probably a few more stages in between. So even at this finished stage, it's very likely for them to turn around and say, oh, that's a bit too blue, can we make that a bit better, or can we change the view outside, or the picture on the TV, and it gets quite picky sometimes, but mostly it's just about getting it to how they envisioned it to be in the first place. So, just to kind of show you through the other visuals that I've done, it's halfway through the project at the moment, so it's probably a bit soon really to show you, but okay. This was the reception area. So again, this went through the same process as the first one that I showed you, all the different various changes and adaptations along the way. This was the lounge. So again, just real period features and like a real luxurious kind of country house theme. This was the bar. So quite a gentleman's bar with a humidor, whiskey, things like that. It's all just about creating the kind of scene that they want. Because really, when I'm dealing with the interior designers who's designing this, whereas they're actually dealing with the client whose building it is, so they have to kind of present a dream to them, basically, when all they see in real life is the shell of a building that is boarded up and full of rubble, really. This is the restaurant. Which again, just trying to get the feel for it being evening, moody, relaxing. This is the winter garden, which was more of a function space, so set out with ballroom tables set for things like weddings. This was a junior suite. and then that's it.